The 2008 financial crisis was definitely a scary time if you were living through it. But one of the dark jokes that kind of came out of that period was your 401k became a 201k when the markets dropped. Now, in all seriousness, you don't want to go back to work, because you found out that you retired broke, which means that you need to have a plan now because it's not a matter of if the markets crash, it's only a matter of when. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a consistent retirement income no matter what happens in the markets. Now, if we haven't met yet, my name is Barakat Kaloli. I'm a financial advisor in the Sacramento area. Many of my family, my friends, and clients work for Kaiser and other hospitals in the local area. And what I do is I help them plan for retirement. Now, Steph Curry has a reputation for being an extraordinary long range shooter. I actually looked up his 3-point success rate, and it turns out it's about 40.8%. Now, if we look at any given quarter or game, what we're going to see is that that rate is probably above or below that, but because it's an average, right? And if you watch him play, what you'll probably also see is that there's a time where he hits a good streak, and no matter what, whenever he throws up the ball, he just can't miss, even if he wanted to. And by contrast, there are going to be times where he hits a cold streak, where every time he throws up the ball, no matter what, he's going to miss it, and he can't make it, even if he wanted to. Well, the same thing happens with the stock market and with its performance. When we look back 100 years, what we see is that the average annual return is about 7%. But if you look at any given calendar year, you're going to see that the return for that year is going to be either above or below that 7%. And if we look at a timeline of average annual return, or excuse me, the annual return by calendar year, we're going to see that there's sometimes a run of positive returns, and then there are a run of negative returns. Well, how does this affect you and your retirement? Well, say you have a 30-year retirement and you start off with a 10 to 15-year bull run with positive returns, good growing performance, and then you hit a big market crash. It's probably not going to feel good, but it's probably not going to be financially fatal for you. Now, imagine again that same scenario or that same retirement period over 30 years, but this time you happen to retire in 2006 or 2007, and you hit a 50% drop early on in retirement. Now, remember when your uncle, your coworker, your dad, or someone told you about the magic of compounding your money? Well, if you're taking money out of savings while those investments are dropping in value, that compounding can work in the other direction. And when it does, it gets ugly. The financial death spiral is going to just make you feel like you are a maverick or goose in a tailspin, because there's nothing you can do except stop withdrawing money, stop spending, and then basically go back on, beans and rice. In this scenario, unfortunately, it's really hard to solve this problem once it gets going. So in this case, prevention is really the only cure. Now, how do you set up your portfolio to avoid this problem? Well, this is where the bucket strategy, among other strategies, will come into play. Now, I want to talk about that bucket strategy first. And the way that works is basically we want to make hay and get it into the barn before it rains, right? So how much do you put in what I like to call a war chest? Well, to do that, we look back at the data, and what we see is that the 5-year rolling period is the shortest time frame where we always see a positive return. And so the thing we want to avoid is making sure, like I mentioned before, we don't want to pull money out of investments that are dropping in value. So a good starting point is to have 5 years of living expenses put away into a war chest that I would say ideally would be in a separate account. Keep in mind that a bear market is a 20% or more drop in value, and they typically last about 13 months. And the longest bear market that we have on record is about 2.7 years. So having a 5-year war chest is going to give you that hay in the barn that you can pull from while your other investments are recovering. Now, financial advisors use different versions of the bucket strategy. Some will divide that war chest into multiple buckets. So there's going to be a cash bucket for short-term needs, and then an intermediate bucket for conservative investments like CDs or annuities or bonds. Some advisors will drop off those buckets as the money gets exhausted from them, and others will keep all three or two buckets in place. And kind of like the cascading waterfall type fountain that we have in our patio, the way that the water just kind of cascades down to each successive layer and then gets recycled back, you basically pull money and rebalance from your growth bucket over to your war chest, and you just manage the performance of the portfolio over time. Another strategy that I want to talk about is the retirement income guardrails, which you can use alongside the bucket strategy. And the way that works is, in the real world, people aren't going to just keep pulling that money out until it runs out. What they're going to do is stop withdrawing and then cut back on their spending. But how do you know when to make that adjustment to make sure that you don't cross a dangerous kind of threshold? Well, the guardrails, what they do is they give you a safe income range, which basically tells you this is how much money that you can take from your portfolio safely without running the risk of running out of money. And those guardrails provide the lower and the upper bound that will tell you at what point do you need to make that adjustment. So let's take a fictitious example. Let's say that you have a $1 million portfolio going into retirement with guardrails at $800,000 and $1.2 million. And you decide that your income from that portfolio is going to be $50,000 per year. Well, if the value of that portfolio drops down to that lower guardrail at $800,000, then what you need to do is just cut back your spending in order to preserve your nest egg. And say you cut back that spending from $50,000 down to $40,000 for the year. Conversely, if you have a good run of performance and that portfolio grows beyond 1.2 million, well, now you can take that $50,000 of spending and then boost it up to $60,000 per year. And so these are numbers I just made up, but the idea is to kind of give you a sense of how the dynamic works in real time as you're managing that portfolio and as it's fluctuating over time. And what those guardrails do is it will keep you within that safe range of income that you can take without running out of money. Now, you're going to work with your advisor in that kind of scenario, figure out based on your nest egg what those guardrails are and what that safe income rate is going to be. Now, one last point I want to make is that studies have been done on retirees in various retirement scenarios. And what they show is that the first 10 years really sets the tone for the rest of your retirement. So again, if we're looking at like a 30-year retirement period, if in the first 10 years you take a major hit to your portfolio and you're still taking withdrawals or you don't really just have a plan in place to deal with that, it's almost impossible for your savings to recover for the rest of your retirement period. By contrast, if you get through that first 10 years and you either don't have a major downturn or you have a plan in place to weather that storm, well, now you're in a much better position and much less likely to run out of money in retirement. So it just has to do with that sequence of returns and the way that the math works. You have to basically minimize the downturns and the major hits that your portfolio is taking. And the further along you can get and keep that intact, then the better the chance you stand of making it all the way through retirement financially successfully. So getting through those early years is going to be crucial. And it's the key to really setting yourself up for success. And this is, a question that I would say most people have. It's one of the main questions they have is this amount of money that I have enough to last me through it? Or what is the risk that I'm going to run out of money? And so I want you to just always keep in mind that those first 10 years are really the crucial period that you want to make sure that your plan is going to get you through. Planning your retirement from Kaiser is a process, and it's hopefully something that you're only going to do once. Well, I've worked with many employees, helping them successfully get through that process. And based on that experience of what I've learned from helping many people, I put together a mini book to help guide you through every step of the way. So if you take a look at the description below, you'll see a link where you can download a copy for yourself. And if you or someone you know is thinking about putting in that 90-day notice to retire, go ahead and check out this video that we're going to link to here and see where to start and what to make sure that you don't overlook